Mr. Patel, my second question is, should we worry more about your memory or your veracity?
We should worry more about your lack of candor. You're accusing me of committing perjury.
Veracity?
Tell the American people
didn't
how
tell-
I broke the law and committed a felony.
You did
Have the
bring-
audacity to actually
No,
put the
all
facts
right, then
forward
the answer is
instead
no.
of
The House
lying
hearing
for
erupted into chaos when Congresswoman Madeleine Dean confronted FBI Director Kash Patel, accusing him of turning the FBI into a political weapon for Donald Trump. Patel fired back, calling her accusations lies and political banter, but Dean refused to back down, ending the clash with one unforgettable line, "You're failing, not me." Here's exactly what happened.
Thank you, Chairman Rogers, Ranking Member Meng, Chairman Cole, Ranking Member DeLauro. And thank you, Mr. Patel, for your testimony and for being here today. I've been looking at the President's 120-word FBI budget request, the so-called skinny, I'll call it Ozempic request, that states that, quote, the undoing of the weaponization of the FBI is one of the administration's top priorities. The weaponization of the FBI is something that deeply concerns me. It should concern all of us. And yet, since taking office, President Trump has been on a revenge tour. He has targeted individuals, universities, law firms, with executive orders to cut them out or to make them come under his will. He has used ICE to disappear U.S. citizens without due process, and he's fully ignored a unanimous Supreme Court order, and then over the weekend wasn't sure if he was obligated to uphold the Constitution of the United States. In your book, your recent book, Government Gangsters, you include an appendix with a list of names that people have referred to as an enemies list. Now, I know you will claim it's just an appendix, not an enemies list. So let's focus on how the president sees it, on what the president calls it. And you proudly display his quote on the front cover of your book. The president calls this a brilliant roadmap, a blueprint. And I have not even raised your storied children's book, The Plot Against the King. It concerns me how many people from this blueprint have been targeted with executive orders and FBI investigations. The FBI cannot be weaponized, and under your leadership, it has been nothing but a weapon alongside the president to go after the president's perceived opponents, to stifle dissent and free speech. A few weeks ago, as we saw through a social media post that you quickly deleted, the FBI arrested a judge in Wisconsin for correctly asking ICE officials if they had a judicial warrant instead of an administrative warrant, which they did not have. Despite this judge following the law, on the morning of April the 25th, the FBI arrested the judge in an escalation of the weaponization of the FBI under your leadership. Let me be clear. A functioning democracy does not lock up judges. I am gravely concerned about the utter lack of independence of the FBI and its weaponization under your leadership. I am concerned that the president is using this book, your book, as a blueprint, as he has said. It's a blueprint for revenge. And I am concerned that your eagerness, a childlike giddiness to carry out the president's revenge tour, you've shown yourself to be unserious in your statements before you were sworn in and some after. You've shown yourself unfit to lead this important agency. I was an impeachment manager for President Trump's second impeachment. It was a sad, solemn duty. And so I wanted to ask you about that. Mr. Patel, as you and the president continue to weaponize and investigate his perceived enemies, as you follow this blueprint, when can I, a former impeachment manager, expect the FBI at my door?
Ma'am, you want to know who was targeted by a weaponized FBI? Me. You want to know how and why?
Well,
you want to know what I'm doing to fix it?
That. Let me move on.
Well, you should read the book because there's no enemies
So-
list on that book.
so
There are
you-
people that violated their constitutional obligations and their duties to the American people.
That's good. You
And they
gave
were
them due
rightly
process.
called out.
I'm
And
changing
you should
topics.
give that book to every one of your constituents so they can
changing
read
topics.
about it.
I won't be doing that.
That's their loss.
During your Senate confirmation hearings, you repeatedly denied having any involvement as a private citizen in the firing of FBI officials who engaged in the prosecution against January 6 insurrectionists, the violent rioters who beat and killed Capitol police officers, and whom you referred to as political prisoners. Since then, multiple whistleblowers have come forward, and we know that you likely committed perjury. At the same hearing, you claimed you were not familiar with Stu Peters, an anti-Semitic Holocaust denier, despite the fact that you appeared on Mr. Peters' podcast 8 separate times. 8 times, and you claimed not to recall. Mr. Patel, my second question is, should we worry more about your memory or your veracity?
We should worry more about your lack of candor. You're accusing me of committing
Veracity?
perjury. Tell the American
You
people
didn't
how
know?
I broke the law and committed a felony.
You did
Have the audacity to actually
No,
put the
all
facts
right, then
forward
the answer is
instead of
both.
lying for political banter so you can have a 20-second
answer
donation hit.
The answer is both. I believe that the
The
men and
answer is
women of
you're
the
failing, not
I
me.
reclaim my time.
Go ahead.
Mr. Patel, I believe that the members of the FBI, and I know many of them, many retired, 38,000 people, as you say, it's a little less than that now, deserve the very best, deserve extraordinary independence, deserve freedom from the fears of being investigated, the freedom of coming forward to make sure they're doing their job. And I'll end with this, that I think it's interesting that in your proposal today, you find yourself at a gulf of difference between you and the president. I wonder how you will resolve that. Will you go to the president and say, we need $11.2 billion, not what you cut out of here? You're asking for more than $1 billion than the president's request. Are you going to go to the president and straighten out that gulf?
I'll do what I've always done and represent the American people, defend this country, and make sure the Constitution is always upheld and the FBI is never weaponized. Maybe you should do the same.
So you agree with the president when he says he doesn't know if he should uphold his constitutional duty?
If you want to just keep putting words in my mouth, the TV cameras are outside.
I thank you. I yield back. Again, this is an unserious moment, sadly, for the FBI. I yield back.
More so for you.
Mr. Strong.
One of the most explosive moments from today's House hearing came when Congresswoman Madeleine Dean and FBI Director Kash Patel engaged in a tense back and forth over the FBI's independence, political accountability, and the role of law enforcement under the Trump administration. Dean opened by examining the administration's proposed FBI budget, pointing to language describing the need to undo the weaponization of the FBI. She argued that while the administration claims to be restoring impartial justice, its actions suggest something very different. According to Dean, President Trump has repeatedly used the power of government against critics, universities, law firms, and individuals he views as political opponents. She questioned whether the FBI, under Patel's leadership, was becoming another tool in that broader political effort instead of remaining an independent law enforcement agency. Dean specifically referenced Patel's book, Government Gangsters, noting that it contains an appendix listing numerous government officials whom critics have described as political enemies. While Patel has consistently rejected that interpretation, Dean argued that President Trump himself praised the book as a blueprint, raising concerns that it could be guiding decisions inside the administration. She also cited the FBI's arrest of a Wisconsin judge after an immigration-related dispute, arguing that the incident raised serious questions about judicial independence and the growing reach of federal law enforcement. Dean warned that in a healthy democracy, judges must be able to perform their constitutional duties without fear of political retaliation. The hearing reached another level when Dean made the exchange personal. As one of the impeachment managers during President Trump's second impeachment trial, she asked Patel directly, "When can I expect the FBI at my door?" Rather than answering directly, Patel turned the criticism back on Dean. He argued that if anyone understood what a weaponized FBI looked like, it was him, claiming he had personally been targeted by previous investigations. Patel defended his book, insisting it contains no enemies list, but rather identifies officials whom he believes violated their constitutional responsibilities. He encouraged Americans to read the book and judge its contents for themselves. Dean remained unconvinced. She challenged Patel's previous testimony before the Senate, raising questions about statements he made regarding January 6 investigations and his previous appearances on controversial media platforms. she suggested his testimony raised concerns about both his memory and his honesty. Patel forcefully rejected those accusations. He demanded that Dean explain exactly how he had committed perjury, accusing her of making inflammatory claims for political headlines rather than presenting factual evidence. The exchange quickly became one of the most confrontational moments of the hearing. Dean responded with one of the hearing's defining lines. "The answer is you're failing, not me." She argued that the thousands of career FBI agents across the country deserve leadership that protects the Bureau's independence rather than placing it in the middle of partisan political battles. In her view, public confidence in the FBI depends on its ability to enforce the law without favor or political influence. Before yielding her time, Dean also questioned why Patel was requesting significantly more funding for the FBI than what appeared in President Trump's own proposed budget. She asked whether Patel would challenge the president over those funding differences. Patel answered that his responsibility is to represent the American people, defend the Constitution, and ensure the FBI is never weaponized again. He closed by turning Dean's criticism back on her, suggesting she should focus on defending the Constitution as well. The exchange perfectly captured one of Washington's biggest political debates. Democrats continue to argue that the Trump administration is eroding the independence of federal law enforcement by using government power against political opponents and weakening long-standing democratic norms. Republicans, meanwhile, argue that institutions like the FBI became politicized long before Patel took office and believe his leadership is restoring accountability and rebuilding public trust. Whichever side Americans support, this hearing demonstrated just how deeply divided the country remains over the future of federal law enforcement and the limits of executive power. As Congress continues its oversight of the FBI, confrontations like this are likely to become even more intense, with both parties presenting dramatically different visions of what justice, accountability, and the rule of law should look like in America.